Hey Who fans, welcome to the Big Blue Box podcast. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And we're at episode 180.
180!
Have you ever thought what it's like to be wanderers in the fourth dimension?
Nobody in the universe can do what we're doing.
I've reversed the polarity of the neutron flow, so the TARDIS should be free of the force field now.
There's no point in being grown up if you can't be childish sometimes.
The trouble with time travel is, one never seems to find the time.
Change, my dear, and it seems on a moment too soon.
Unlimited rice pudding, etc., etc.
I am the Doctor!
Great men are forged in fire. It is the privilege of lesser men to light the flame.
I'm the Doctor. This is Rose Tyler. She's my +1. Is that all right?
That would be me.
Hello. Surprise.
Boom.
Etc.
I'm the Doctor. Do everything I tell you, don't ask stupid questions, and don't wander off.
How can you kidneys? I don't like the colour.
Howdy, howdy do, Who fans. Hope you've all had a cracking couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And that you've all managed to do something Doctor
Who
related. Yay.
There we go. See, 2 weeks, we've still got it.
We've still got it. It never went away.
We haven't gone anywhere. We've just sat at our tables getting covered in cobwebs for the last 2 weeks.
Pretty much. It's a bit dusty in here.
Dusted ourselves off.
Indeed. Yeah, so apologies for last week, Who fans. It's completely, well, not my fault, but it's down to me that we didn't record the having some gasworks going on in the street where I live. And the dudes are out there literally feet away from the house, digging up the pavement and doing whatever they were doing. So it would have been a nightmare because it was like all day. Because we normally record on a Wednesday, and they started very early Wednesday morning. And the guy knocked at the door and said, "Yeah, you're going to be without gas, possibly electric, for a couple of days." I was like, no thanks. He's like, "Well, we can sort the electric out if you need it." I said, "Well, I do need it because I work from home, so that's
would be nice."
That would be nice. He said, "But you'll be without gas." I said, "I can handle that," but and it was just the noise more than anything. It was just horrendous. So it would have been like I was recording, like sat on a building site somewhere.
It would have driven me mad. Actually, I hate stuff like that.
Yeah.
You sent me a photo as well, and you're not. Gary's not exaggerating when he says they were right outside the door. They looked like the van was backed up to your front door. I couldn't believe it. Yeah, literally right on top of you, weren't they? Terrible.
It was a nightmare.
Yeah, the noise would have done my head in, literally. Yeah.
So it wouldn't have been a good environment to record. You know, you wouldn't have listened to our normal, very high-produced, great sounding audio. It would have been atrocious. So,
to be fair, I guess it takes a lot to stop us, doesn't it? I know we've said this before. We have, we have recorded in all sorts of situations over the years. So it does take a lot to put the podcast off. So yeah,
it does indeed.
Yeah.
But we are back.
Yes, we are.
And we're episode 180. Crikey!
Listen to Tony. Listen to 180.
So in March 2014, we started just a little old podcast.
March
of 2014. So it's it's 4 years.
My goodness,
this month. Yeah,
that is quite incredible.
It is, isn't it?
That
is that long.
No, I was just thinking it doesn't feel that long. I can still remember getting the tweet, the message, private message in Twitter, saying, I've been thinking, mate, would you fancy coming on full time? And me saying to my other half, oh yeah, should I do this? And it sounds quite exciting, and I quite enjoyed the one-off I did. Yeah, that's 4 years ago. Blimey,
almost. Yeah, jumping the gun a little bit because episode 1 went out on the 31st of March 2014.
Right.
But this month it's been 4 years. Bloody hell.
Gosh. Yeah, goes quick, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it?
Even in a time machine, it goes quick.
Even in the TARDIS time. Yeah. So coming up in today's show, we have a bunch of news as usual. Then we've got some merch to talk through, and then we're on to our review. Sontaha. Yes. Haven't seen that one very often.
Me either. In fact, I have a feeling that it's only the second time I watched it. I think I only watched it when it went out, and I may have watched it in between, but I certainly don't remember. Yeah,
seen it a few times over the years, but it doesn't stay in my memory, if that makes sense to anyone.
Yep.
Yes. But anyway, you been up to much, buddy, in our little mini break?
Not a great deal, but I did get do you remember a while back we were talking about these real-time DVDs that come out, the sort of unofficial releases that connect to Doctor Who.
Yeah.
They were released a new one called The Doctors, The Monsters.
Oh, yeah.
Which basically features interviews with the people that wore the rubber suits and stuff like that. Well, that turned up recently, and I was giving that a watch while we were off air. And it's actually pretty decent because I like these releases because A, they're cheap. You can normally get them for around a tenner. And they're normally 2-disc sets. So, they're good value. And what they are is they're sort of interviews from the archives that Real Time Pictures filmed, and they've sort of, remastered them the best they can and put them on DVD. So, yeah, I've been watching a bit of that. And this one, I remember we were sort of getting excited about because the first sort of documentary on this hosted by Sylvester McCoy. And obviously we both love McCoy. And it's really good. It's just him basically talking through, and he's at Riverside Studios, and they've sort of reenacted a few scenes from early Doctor Who in the actual studio stuff, and it's really cool. But the one that I really like, so it's got interviews with like Ray Cusack, who was the Dalek designer, Michael Wisher, who obviously was Davros in Jess's Daleks, David Banks, the cyber leader. And the good thing about that one is they filmed it when he was starring in The Ultimate Adventure. So they go behind the scenes of the stage play, and that's quite rare to see because I don't think I've ever seen much behind the scenes stuff of The Ultimate Adventure. So that's really cool. But the Ray Cusack thing really interested me because I always feel really sorry for Ray, because Terry Nation obviously, invented the Daleks and made loads of money from the Daleks. Whereas poor old Ray Cusack, who actually designed the look of the thing, kind of, because he was just a sort of BBC employee, just got paid a normal wage. And he does say on the interview, he said, I think I ought to get a bit more. And they gave him £100, and that was all he ever got as a bonus for designing him. And I think I don't think he says it in this interview, but he has said it before, that Terry Nation sort of said, don't worry, Ray, we're going to make millions. And he says, I never saw him again. So I always feel a bit sorry for Ray, because I think part of the Daleks' appeal is obviously the look of them. And he was responsible, for a big part of that. So it's really interesting to talk about that. He is obviously quite, he's quite bitter about it, but I think with good reason. But the thing is with Ray is that he's a very candid man. He's very to the point and very honest. And so Nick's saying, he's like sort of behind the camera, he was trying to sort of be animated and smile and, get Ray to smile. But it's a great interview, and he gets out some of his early designs for the Daleks and stuff as well. So that's all I've been doing really is watching that. And if anyone's sort of seen that DVD and thought about getting it, it's really worth it. I'm really enjoying going through it. As I said, if you sort of like the early Doctor Who stuff, it's quite interesting to hear from these people that you don't normally see interviewed. I mean, Michael Wisher sadly passed away many years ago, so it's great to hear him talking about, Davros and how he was going to play it and stuff like that. And they're all kind of characters in their own right, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been doing, mate, just watching that. And not really much else, I don't think. What about you?
Yeah, not too much, mate. I've watched a few classics.
Have you?
Yeah, just when I'm in the mood for Tom.
Oh, yes.
When you're in the mood for Tom.
Yeah, all the time at the minute, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, Tom, I need you.
Tom, can you do it in the voice?
Tom, no. Yeah. Well, I'm in the mood for you. What you saying? For some reason, my finger always scans the shelf, and it always seems to rest on the same few. So I dug out The Brain of Morbius.
Oh, great! Yeah,
I love that story.
It is brilliant, isn't it? Philip Maddox, so good in that. We've reviewed it as well, haven't we? So I don't need to.
We can speak
to guard Michael. Yeah, we can speak freely. Yeah, so good. That's when Tom's the Doctor, I should say, is in a bad mood at the start, isn't he? And Sarah's just having none of it.
Yes.
Yeah. And you've got the mutt crawling across the set and all that. Oh, that's made me want to watch it now. I've seen it loads, but I never get bored of that one.
Yeah, never tire of that one.
I think that's classic Hinchcliffe. You know, we talk about Philip Hinchcliffe, heard it?
Yeah.
Classic Hinchcliffe, yeah.
Classic. Also stuck on Inferno.
Oh.
Yeah.
Now, we haven't reviewed that. Careful. Or
now.
have we?
No, we haven't.
No, we haven't.
I don't think so. No, I'm pretty sure we haven't.
No, I don't think we have, actually, no.
Let me check.
It's funny.
No, we haven't.
No, it's funny because our good friend Joe Sweeney, who listens to the podcast, was asking, he was saying, why haven't they started with Pertwee with the Blu-ray? You know, they're going to reissue Tom's first series on Blu-ray. He was saying, why haven't they started with Pertwee? And I said, because I think a lot of the Pertwee era, the sources, because they were all junked, a lot of his episodes. Mm-hmm. A lot of the Pertwee, episodes are from bad sources, and they've remastered them the best they can, but they still don't look particularly great. And I always think, I'm trying to not say too much about Inferno because I haven't reviewed it, but the picture quality in some of the episodes, like the red is really bleeding through the color red on the camera, and the bit when it goes outside, which normally outside recording looks good, even if the studio stuff looks a bit fuzzy. But yeah, I remember thinking all the scenes of him, the werewolf guy climbing the tower and stuff, that still look really fuzzy, and even though they've tried their best to remaster it. So I think they're going to have a hard time when they finally come around to remaster Pertwee stuff. Probably harder than the black and white stuff, actually, to be honest with you. But yes,
I agree. Yeah, that was the danger that I felt when they announced the Blu-ray for Series 12, because I thought, are we just going to have sort of odd, sort of littered series around? Because like you say, it's very difficult to remaster poor source material. So maybe they just live with that. Maybe they just, the majority of it looks okay. We'll live with the other ones that don't look that good. But, are we going to have Series 12 as a special edition, and then Series 19, and then Series, 25? Are we just going to have these odd?
That would do my OCD in no end. I'll tell you what I don't like is on the US release of the Fourth Doctor Blu-ray, they're calling it the Fourth Doctor's first season.
Yes.
Instead of season 12.
Yeah.
Well, I don't like that. That's stupid, because then are you going to say the first Doctor's? I don't know. It doesn't sound right. How does that work?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's season 12.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's
I don't get that at all.
It'll be an interesting experiment, this whole Blu-ray thing of the classic years. Yeah, I don't know.
I won't like. See, I would hate that, because I just have lots of series, season 1, season 2, season 3, season 1, season 2. I was like, no, I just want season 1 to 27, whatever. I don't want lots of season ones. It doesn't make sense to me at all. But anyway,
yeah, maybe it's easier for newcomers maybe to look at each Doctor as a block rather than the entire classic era. Maybe it's easier for trying to onboard newer people to Classic Who that look at it as a per Doctor. Don't expect you to go out and grab the entire classic years. Maybe the Paul
McGann season 1. I mean, I don't know. The Scream of the Shelker season 1. I just don't know. Yeah, it's interesting to wonder where they're going with that. Like, it makes me think about future releases, because that would imply there'd be a season 2. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Not much else, mate. I did get a really cool little package in the post.
Yes, you did. Yeah, it looks beautiful.
Yes, and I'm really gutted in one way.
Why?
Because you haven't got yours yet.
No, I haven't got mine. No, I haven't even got a dispatch email. No, it's funny actually. I should be annoyed, but I'm surprisingly not. I mean, I think it just looks beautiful. I can't wait for it to arrive. You should tell people what we're talking about.
Yeah, I suppose so. Anyways, yeah. So a few episodes back, you would have heard us talk about the brand new special edition of the Special Weapons Dalek from Robert Harrop.
Yes.
Those fine peeps that make all of the really cool little statues and so on and so forth. So as soon as we saw this one, we were on it straight away, weren't we?
Yeah, we both were. Yeah, we were like immediately pre-ordered. Yeah.
Immediately.
Yeah.
And mine turned up the other day. I can't remember what number mine is. I think it's 31, I think, out of 250.
Right.
So not too bad. And it's beautiful, mate.
Yeah, I saw the pictures posted. It doesn't look like a disappointment. It looks absolutely beautiful.
Crikey.
Yeah, I can't wait to get mine on the shelf. Yeah, and the turret spins as well, doesn't it?
It does, the top half.
Yeah, which is because they normally, with their statues, they're just, there's no movement in it. But this one, it does actually have a moving turret, I see, which is kind of cool.
Yes. And what's nice about it is that they could have, because these statues are like I don't know what material it is. It's like a resin. It's like a hard resin, isn't it?
I don't know what it is, actually. Yeah, I'd said resin.
Some kind of hard material. And what they've done, which is really nice, is they've put this very soft kind of felt material on the top of the bottom half and underneath the top half, if that makes sense. So that when you sort of connect them together and you spin it, you haven't got this sort of grinding against the resin material.
So weird. I wondered about that. Yeah, when I saw it, I had visions of like paint flaking off every time you moved it. Yeah, that's good then.
Yeah, so it turns really smooth and it's nice, and the detail is fantastic. It's got little quirky bits that I like about Robert Harrop. So on one of the photos that I posted, I posted a picture of the weapon turret facing straight into the camera, and you can see, because it's made up of like smaller circles, if that makes sense, and then one of the circles is just off center a little bit and the other one's off center, so it's not perfect. And I love that. I love that it's because the actual full-size Dalek would have been the same. They were never perfectly symmetrical, or spent months and months like they do on props these days. And I love that. I love those little quirky bits about the Robert Harrop figures that, I don't know, it just feels perfectly Who, if that makes sense. It feels perfectly classic Who, and the detail's amazing and it looks beautiful, so I'm really happy. You're going to love it, mate, when you get yours.
I was going to say, I'm hoping mine hasn't been dispatched yet, but hopefully it'll be soon. So you've got the Sea Devil and the special weapons.
Yes.
Have you got another one?
Nope.
No, those two. So I was going to say, I bet they look good together. Yeah, it's nice. Talking of things being dispatched, I finally got my logo T-shirt, by the way.
Oh, you did?
Only took a month to arrive, but I finally got it. Yeah, I'm not wearing it because obviously we missed a week. I was going to wear it last week, but it's just for anyone following that saga from FB. It's the new Dot 2 logo T-shirt has finally arrived. Kind of my enthusiasm's kind of really waned now. Now it's got here. I kind of like opened it and went, yeah. You know what I mean? Like when I ordered it, I was like really pumped. It's like, new logo. I really like this tee. And it just sort of limped through the letterbox. I was so I'll probably wear it to a future convention before it gets shrunk in the tumble dryer. Yeah. So that's good. So it's all good. So just got to wait for my special weapons to turn up, and all will be well.
All will be right in the world again.
All will be right. Yes.
Yeah. Anyways, enough waffle.
Yes.
You should probably land the TARDIS.
A bit of news, yeah.
Right, first up, the original Doctor Who recordings, which date back to the very first, some of the very early episodes, right from the Hartnell era. They were under the responsibility and custodian, if you like, of a gentleman called Graham Strong. So he was the guy that made sure that all of the original recordings from the early years were sort of kept intact and catalogued and all that stuff. But they're making a shift and they're getting a new home. And they've been donated to the man himself, Mr. Mark Ayres. And if you're into your classic Who, especially the restoration team and all that stuff, his name should ring a bell. He's the guy that is part of the Doctor Who restoration team and works with the music soundtracks and the sound effects and cleaning up all the audio and all that stuff. So Graham has donated all of the original high quality audio from the missing episodes as well. It's quite important. So even if we haven't got the video reels and so on for some of the missing Classic Who stuff, the audio is still there, which is good. And yeah, they're going over to Mark, who can properly sort of look after them and make sure they're archived properly and all that stuff. So yeah, so Graham Strong it's kind of a lifelong passion of his, really. He started making his own recordings of Doctor Who audio when he was a teenager, using a really old, the old reel-to-reel, really old analog stuff. It's just been keeping them safe and sound ever since, really. But I think now it's getting to the time where, the value of these things is increasing all the time, especially the lost episodes and so on. So I think it needs to be transferred over to somebody, in this case Mark, or a team at least, who can really make sure that they're secured for the future. So if at any point we do get those missing episodes turn up, the original high quality audio is there ready, as part of the restoration team. So this is really good. I love things like this where, even really old Doctor Who stuff is still making news today. It's wonderful. Yeah. So it's good stuff for the original audio stuff, because it could have easily just sat in somebody's garage or somebody's loft, and then one day relative takes it to a car boot sale, and then or even worse, takes it to the dump, and then you're like, oh my God. So it's good that it's going to be looked after and secured. So
yeah, Mark Ayres is the man to do it, isn't he? He's brilliant. He's such a stickler for detail. He does amazing work with the audios that they have. Yeah, it's good. I mean, I don't know about you, mate, but I can remember doing that as a kid, is sticking a tape recorder next to the TV to try and record the soundtrack of stuff, back before sort of we got things like audios released. And it's basically what he did, isn't it? He sort of put a microphone hanging over the TV next to the speaker and recorded all the audio from the television, and he's basically just collected it all over the years and handed it over to Mark Ayres. So
it's good.
It's really nice.
Because he was into sort of audio technology and so on. Like you said, he just used to put a microphone up to the TV speaker. And this follows on from the very first series, so from episode 7 of the Daleks' Master Plan.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so from way, way back. But apparently, the quality of his own recordings are a lot higher than the actual original studio recordings.
Gosh, really?
Yeah. So he was able to get some really clear, proper crystal clear audio from a lot of his recordings. So it's great news.
That's amazing. I bet Mark thought Christmas had come early. I bet he's loving going through all of that. That's quite something. Right, in other news, some really, really sad news. I'm genuinely gutted to have to report this, but as many of you listening will have already heard, Ken Dodd passed away at the age of 90. Obviously best known for his stand-up comedy and television comedy, but he did star in Doctor Who in the 7th Doctor story, Delta and the Bannermen. He was great in that. I mean, I've got to admit, when I remember them saying that, coming next week, back when I was a kid, and seeing this picture of Doddy and thinking, Ken Dodd in Doctor Who, what? But you know what? I absolutely love him in that story. I always think it's really sad when he gets shot at the end, shot in as well. But yeah, so sadly, Doddy has passed away, as I said, at the age of 90. As with a lot of people, he leaves behind an amazing legacy. I always wanted to meet Doddy. I don't know about you. I always wanted to meet him because he had a real positive sort of outlook, didn't he? Like a lot of comedians, nowadays it's all negative. It's all putting stuff down. Doddy was the absolute epitome, and many would say, outdated. But I think we need more of people like Doddy. He's, if you watch interviews with him, he's so hardworking. I mean, you wouldn't believe the amount of shows he was still doing up until he died. You just would not believe, how hard this man worked. And basically he did it because he loved it. He really did. There's no other reason that a man would be doing like 50 odd shows a year at the age of 90 other than the fact that he loved it. So it's very sad. But as I said, he leaves behind a great legacy.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah. It's really sad. But yeah, it's one of those things you have to, think about their really long, successful career and legacy, like you say. And trying to think, because how old was he when he passed away? He was 90, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And I think he worked for over 60 years or something like that. He was a...
Well, I remember I really wanted to meet him. I wanted to go and see one of his shows, and he tended to do seaside towns, so it was very rare that he come anywhere out this way. But then about 2 years ago, he was doing a show in Buckinghamshire somewhere. I forget the name now, but it wasn't that far from me. I remember thinking, I could get to it, and when we looked at tickets, they'd got sort of 2 seats left, but they were in different. So I'd have been sat like upstairs, and my partner would have been sat downstairs. It was like that. So I was like, my other half probably won't get it anyway, so I'd probably go on my own. And then I didn't go, and I've always regretted it because, as I said, to be honest, I really just wanted to go to see him live and to actually try and get to meet him. But he was renowned, wasn't he, for doing like 5-hour shows. He basically just wouldn't leave the stage, I mean, that just goes to show how much he loved what he did. I know I used to work with a guy that absolutely loved him and said, the sort of matinee audience would still be there when the evening audience came for the show. And that's absolutely true. He just literally had to be, dragged off stage a lot of the time. Yeah. So he is, the thing is, I think we need more comedians like Ken Dodd in the world we live in today. But the thing is, he is a real one-off, I think.
Of course, yeah.
Absolute one-off. So, but there we are.
Ken Dodd. Should refer to him as Sir Ken Dodd.
Sir Ken Dodd, yeah.
Did get his knighthood a couple of years back, which is very well deserved, of course, with services to entertainment.
Yeah.
We say goodbye to old Doddy.
Tollmaster. I was trying to think what his name was the Tollmaster. Of course it was, yeah. The rock and roll years. Anyway, so there we are. Ken Dodd.
Ken Dodd. Last up for news, we got some very interesting Eccleston.
Very interesting.
That have surfaced recently.
He's finally said it.
Yeah, so we've been kind of he's alluded to these things over the years, but has never sort of explicitly said, yes, it was this or that or whatever.
He's probably so sick of being asked. He's finally just, I'll just tell you. Yeah. Because I reckon he's been worn down.
Yes. Well, he's knocking on a bit now. I'm not saying that he's old, but, he's probably getting to that age where he thinks, I'm just too old for all this.
Yeah.
I'm too old for all this Chinese whispers and all that. Yeah, so he's done an interview with the Radio Times recently, and they have asked him, obviously, various questions. I'm sure he got fired in most of his interviews over the years, but has decided to just give us a bit of a clearer picture. And like I said, he's alluded to these things over the years, but now he said it. So he's essentially saying that the relationship between him, and he doesn't mention Russell by name, but it's obvious that it's him because he says his relationship with his immediate superiors, the showrunner, so that's Russell, the producer, which would be
Phil
Collinson, and co-producer, which would be, what's her name?
Forgotten her name.
What's her name? Her.
Oh no, Judy Gardner.
That's it. Yeah. He said it broke down irreparably during the first block of filming, and it never recovered. They lost trust in me, and I lost faith and trust and belief in them.
Oof.
So this isn't news to anybody. But what is quite telling is that how quickly this happened. So the first block of filming.
That's what shocked me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not good. And he goes on to say, some of my anger about the situation came from my own insecurity. They employed somebody who was not a natural light comedian. He says, I think that if you're setting up a huge series like that, the director has to be impeccable in setting the tone. Billy Piper, who we know was and is brilliant, was very, very nervous and very inexperienced. So you had that, and then you had me, who was very, very experienced, possibly the most experienced on it, but out of my comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
So that sounds to me like very up for the part, really into it, Just not sure if he can pull off the sort of quirky, humorous bits. So people like Matt Smith, you can tell were kind of born to do that kind of role. The very light, fluffy, comedic, quirky stuff. Whereas Chris Eccleston, you can tell that he's quite, it doesn't come as natural to him.
I think that it does show slightly on screen. I think he should have had a bit more faith in himself, because it is totally true. He's so fantastic as the Doctor, but when he does do the sort of more jokey scenes, I think there are moments when it does stand out that you can tell he's not that comfortable. Although he does pull it off, he's still great at doing it, but you can sort of feel that insecurity a little bit. I think he got better at it. I think when we reviewed Boomtown, he was sort of firing off a few quirky bits of script, and I remember me and you saying he's sort of handling in that quite well. Whereas I think, perhaps some of the other stuff he wasn't as comfortable with, but it's fascinating.
It is, and he goes on. I'm just going to rattle through just 2 more quotes that they've put out there. He says, when I left, I gave my word to then showrunner Russell that I wouldn't do anything to damage the show, but they did things to damage me. I didn't criticize anybody, and I didn't issue a statement. And the last quote, it sort of elaborates on what he means by they damaged me. He says, I gave them a hit show and left with dignity, and then they put me on a blacklist.
Oh dear.
I was carrying my own insecurities as it was something I'd never done before, and then I was abandoned, vilified in the tabloid press and blacklisted. I told my agent at the time, I was told by my agent at the time, the BBC regime is against you.
Cool.
You're going to have to get out of the country and wait for regime change. So I went to America and kept on working, because that's what my parents instilled in me. My dad always said to me, I don't care what you do, sweeping the floor or whatever you're doing, just do the best job you can. He says, I know it's cliched and northern and all that beep, but it applies. So I've heard of this before, where the BBC, sometimes they do have this very controlling, almost bullish attitude towards certain people.
I can hear Colin Baker now saying, yes, Chris, yes.
And it always comes from the top, because I truly believe that Russell himself would never have, said to Chris, if you leave, or, you've decided to leave, I just can't imagine Russell giving Chris the kind of, you're never going to work for the BBC again, and I can't imagine Russell doing that. So as usual, these things normally come from the top. So I can imagine that the executives at the BBC thought, this is amazing. We've got brilliant ratings for the launch of, the new Doctor Who series. It's all amazing. We want this to continue. Oh no, Chris has decided to leave. We'll show him, kind of thing. So I can well believe what Chris is saying about the BBC kind of being out to get him a little bit and sort of striking his name off the list for a while and so on. So very interesting stuff, mate. It sounds like what we see on camera is very different to what was actually happening during filming and production.
I find it incredible, mate. I mean, he's sort of alluded to this since he left. It's great to finally get a more concise answer on why he left. But you're right, when you look at Series 1, and I think even Russell says in one of the commentaries that they're amazed how much they got right. When they were making it, they just didn't know, until the finished product was out there. They couldn't even sense whether it was going in the right direction and stuff. So it sounds like there was so much insecurity on Series 1. Yeah. And it just amazes me how good it is. And I wonder if if they hadn't have had this falling out, even with his insecurities, if he'd have got to the end of Series 1 and seen how well it was received, whether it would have boosted his confidence, and he might have thought, yeah, okay, all right, I did that, but these are the things I want to tweak. I'm going to make Series 2 amazing. But because they fell out in Block 1, which, like you said, is shocking to think so early on that happened, that's just, set the path. He's decided, right, well, I'm not, I'll do this series and I'm gone. I'm out of here. Yeah. But yeah, just imagine if it had got to the end of the first series and because the press was good, the fans were on board, the ratings were high. it might have just given him that boost that he clearly needed for his confidence to do the part. Because I don't think he realises how good he is in it, but from what he's saying.
Yeah, he kind of cut himself off completely, didn't he, from all of it. And although I don't think that, like I said, I don't personally think that Russell would have, said anything like, you're never going to work. They did have a falling out for sure, because he goes on to say that the relationship was destroyed due to the experiences on Doctor Who, and that they will never have a working relationship again.
I find that so sad. Because I always, because Chris and Russell worked together quite a bit before Doctor Who, on shows like The Second Coming, which was a brilliant drama and stuff like that. And I don't know, I don't like to think of Russell T Davies and Chris falling out, because I like them both, and it's like two mates, isn't it, that have had a big old bust up, and you're like, come on guys, just let's have a drink, pat each other on the back, let's work through this sort of thing. And I find that really sad, to be honest. It
is sad, but now that Chris has said these things in a bit more detail, you can kind of see why that he's sort of pulled away from it over the years, because
I can.
Do you know what I mean? So I know that we've given him a hard time, especially like the first couple of years of our podcast. We did give him a bit of a hard time, where we said, you're out of order for not, going to conventions, and you never, mention Doctor Who, and you shouldn't pull yourself away. I know hindsight's a beautiful thing, but looking back on it, and I've had, it could be anything at all in your life. It could be a relationship. It could be a job. If you've had like a really, really crappy experience that sucks, it does affect you, and it does make you think, well, I don't want anything to do with that anymore. That sucked. So you can kind of see why he's absolutely not been like Tennant or Smith or anyone like that. He's really gone the other way. So it's just very interesting. It's sad, but it's interesting.
It makes so much more sense, doesn't it? And I really do think that he's probably bitten his lip this whole time. Like, I think, I've assumed that he didn't want to talk about it, but I think actually it's more that he's, like you said, he probably didn't, although he's fallen out with them, he does consider himself, he's a professional actor. He probably doesn't want to just dish all the dirt on what happened. So he's probably bitten his lip for quite a while, I think, on this. And maybe either he thinks the time's right to talk about it, or he's just so sick of being asked that he just, I'll just tell you, or, it just come out in an interview naturally. But either way, it's really interesting to finally get some sort of proper answers on why he left. Everything does seem to sort of click into place now. The reason that he's distanced himself from the show, and he's a very different caliber of actor to sort of David Tennant in his work ethics as well. He's just, I want to say he takes himself, I was going to say takes himself more seriously, but that's not quite what I mean. But
I know what you're getting at. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? He's, again, this isn't quite what I'm getting at, but he's a bit more sort of, I was going to say, I can't think of the word, but whereas David Tennant's a bit more easygoing, Chris can be a bit critical of himself, and he takes himself a bit more seriously and stuff. He's a bit, his ethics are different, so it does explain a lot.
Yes.
The word I was going to use probably isn't suitable for a podcast, but I don't mean it in a bad way.
I know what you mean. Yeah. So we're trying to, in a nice way, say that he's his own worst critic at times, and
I guess, he
tries to, put the best into his role and so on. But it just seems like that kind of was at loggerheads with somebody else's view on what the character should have been. And that's what it sounds like to me anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yes. But there we go. Chris Eccleston finally giving us a bit more meat on the bones as to why he buggered off.
And it's been great for Twitter, actually, because that line, that last bit you read about, I gave them a hit show, but I left with dignity, and they put me on the blacklist. There's been so many things on Twitter where people have used that quote, and then they've put like a picture of like the Candyman, or like the green blob from Image Offender. I mean, people have been really using that quote with silly pictures, and it's been really funny, actually. Just sort of taking the mickey out of it. But anyway, there we go.
There we go. Right, that's news done. Should we get our little metal grumpy friend in?
Oh, yes.
See what he's got.
Merch Corner. Merch Corner. Merch Corner.
I don't know whether to be impressed or disgusted.
It's a bit rubbish, but it's pretty. It's very pretty.
Who talk?
Toby Haydock, that's who.
Who talk commentaries. You've heard us speak about these many times before. It's where Toby Haydock gathers a bunch of old classic dudes, gets them around a microphone, they watch a classic story and record their own commentary. And then they publish that as a CD. You then stick the CD on and watch it along with the story. And you get an alternate version of what's been supplied on the classic DVD. And some new ones are coming up. They are coming up. So we have what's the first one? The Faceless Ones and the Evil of the Daleks.
That's it.
Yes. So it was, I think this spans from, they wanted to do some more, but I think when Deborah Watling passed away, this was, I think one of these was the last ones that she did, or one of the last ones, I believe.
Right.
Because the producer on these, Paul Ballard, says, with a heavy heart, we include our last commentary recording with our dear friend Deborah Watling, who is joined by missing episode hunter Phil Morris to watch the concluding installment of The Web of Fear. So you get that as, you know, as an extra, I assume,
right?
On these. And he goes on to say that it's a packed release. This one, the special edition version, contains even more material, including Fraser Hines' commentary for The Abominable Snowmen and George Layton's first viewing of The Space Pirates.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes. So these two new ones, I think they're going to be released as, are they separate ones or one special edition?
I think it's two separate releases, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
Or do you mean Evil of the Daleks and Faceless Ones? I think they're on one set.
One set,
and then,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they've got a following one that's coming up. I assume it's the end of this month, I think. So Survival is going on to have its own custom commentary. So Paul goes on to say that it's one of his favourite serials, and we have had a few reunions of the cast at conventions over the years, so it was a no-brainer to take advantage of the exciting options available to get the gang back together to watch Survival for Who Talk. And then he goes on to say that there are 2 complete commentaries for the story on that release. They're thrilled to be joined by Rona Munro, who was she the director or the writer?
The writer. The
writer, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's saying that she hasn't been interviewed that much about the series. And Ace, Sophie Eldred, for the first time joins them for Who Talk as well. So the special edition, which is the Faithless Ones and Evil of the Daleks, is coming out as a special edition, because you also get the very last commentary that Deborah Watling did with those guys for The Web of Fear. And then the second one is Survival. Let me see how much these are. I think they're normally around £10-15, aren't they?
Yeah, I think they're sort of $12.99, but they often discount them to like $10.99, I think, when they first come out or something like that.
Yeah,
because I've got a couple of these. They are, are they?
Yeah. So Survival is $9.99.
Ah.
And the special edition that we mentioned that's got the Faceless Ones, Evil of the Daleks, and so on, is called The Monster Era. And that's $9.99 as well.
That's really good. These are quite good, mate. I've got a couple of these. They started off by there are a couple of DVDs that didn't have commentaries, so I think that's what sparked it off. So they did like Enemy of the World and The Web of Fear, and then it's just rolled on, and they've done loads since then. I think if you're looking at the page now, there's loads on there, isn't there?
Loads.
And they're really good. It's nice to have commentaries for ones that didn't get one at the time, or like you said, alternative commentaries and stuff from people that weren't on the original one. So yeah, like you said, like the Rona Munro one, she's not been, interviewed much. So yeah, they're nice little releases.
They are. Yeah, so head over to Phantom Publishing. That's Phantom with an F, not a PH. Mm-hmm. phantompublishing.co.uk /who-talk.
Awesome. Right, what's this other thing he's got on his tray? It looks familiar. Oh, yes. It's the Doctor Who Series 3 Steelbook, which is with a new cover. So they've got rid of the wrong master. They've shoved the right master on the back. And the release date's been pushed back to the 7th of May to give them time to redo it. So just before I say anything else, kudos to the BBC for actually listening to the feedback and doing something about it. It's an improvement.
Okay, yeah.
It's an improvement. That's all I'm going to say. I mean, I still don't really like this artwork. I've got to be honest, but it's better than it was. It has the right master. It's just that now we've got the front with the Doctor and Martha on it and nothing else. And then we've got this really busy montage on the back with the master of a load of weeping angels, the wrong TARDIS and a purple background. So this still, it still kind of irks me. You can probably tell I'm just not a fan of this artwork. But it's better anyway. It looks, it's okay. It's all right, isn't it? It's better than it was.
It's okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So before, I think we mentioned this back in 177, possibly something like that. And yeah, the majority of Who fandom just went nuts about it.
Oh, they did. And for once, I actually agree with, because I was saying recently about everyone moaning about everything, wasn't I? But I have to agree that I'm kind of glad people kicked up about this one, to be honest.
Yes. It's, so they put the wrong mark. So on the front cover, they had the wrong John Sim, didn't they? Master. And then on the back, they had a bunch of different versions, like the Weeping Angels were.
One of them was the Big Chief toy.
Yeah, it was like a different art style, but sort of mushed into the same image on the back cover, if you like. And they've still got the wrong TARDIS as well.
I'll tell you what I did notice as well. The artist, and I forget her name, because she's sort of, they haven't put her name to it very much on the sort of press releases, but she did backtrack a little bit on Twitter, I noticed, because at first she blamed the BBC, didn't she? She was like, said that, that was the image they gave me. They told me to use it. And then someone said, can I quote you on that? And she said, no, actually, no, they did give me a couple of versions and I thought that one suited. So she did backtrack a little bit on that, which is a little bit cheeky, to be honest. But kudos for her for taking the time to go back and correct it. And I think it is the better for it, although I still don't particularly like it overall. I think it does look better. Yeah.
Yes, it's an improvement for sure. It's not, but damn the bloody BBC for this, because they'll have to buy it because I bought the first two.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm the same. I think obviously I'll buy it because I've got 1 and 2, but it certainly won't look anywhere near as good because Series 1 and 2 steelbooks are beautiful by Lean Binding. Absolutely lovely artwork on those. This is going to look very different next to it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'll wait till I see the actual thing. Obviously, I won't judge it till I see the proper product. But it's a very different style, and in my personal opinion, not as professional.
No, I agree. What they should have done really is put the correct TARDIS on the front behind the Doctor and Martha, if they're going to have a TARDIS on there.
It looks very busy, doesn't it, now, that back? Yeah.
And on the back, just have a sort of big, foreboding, menacing, sort of darkened out image of the Master. And then you can put a couple of Weeping Angels, because it's not just the Weeping Angels from Series 3.
Well, they're only in one story, aren't they?
Yeah, they could have had a few different, Who monsters under there, and sort of John Sim sort of overlooking, very menacing. They could have done something like that, but who are we to judge?
Yeah, I was going to say, and I don't mean to be, I know the artist, as I said, I don't mean to knock the artist because it's somebody's hard work. So I will say that, I don't mean to be cruel, but I am just giving my overall opinion of it. That's all I'm doing. I don't mean to be horrible to the artist, but I think what she's tried to do is with the sort of Series 1 and 2 steel books, it's kind of very simple, isn't it? It's just the Doctor and Rose on the front and stuff. And I think perhaps by removing the Master from the front, she may have been trying to sort of tie it in a bit more by keeping the front simple. But I don't know. Like you, mate, I'll obviously buy it because I want to keep going with the steelbook collection. So yeah. 7th of May it's out anyway. I think it's currently going for around about $24.99 pre-order at the minute, which isn't too bad.
Not too bad, no.
Yeah.
7th of May.
Yeah.
That's it for news and merch. He's buggered off anyway.
He's gone. He's long gone.
Doesn't stick around. Right, review time. Sontaha. Right. It's the Potato Heads this week. What story is it?
So it's part one of a two-parter, and it's the Sontaran Stratagem.
Doctor, it's Martha, and I'm bringing you back to Earth.
52 deaths at the exact same moment worldwide.
Who are you? I am General Stahl of the 10th Sontaran Battle Fleet. We have an intruder!
It's the Sontarans. They're in the file, code red Sontarans, but if they're inside the factory, tell them not to start shooting. Unit will get massacred.
Is that what you did to her? Turned her into a soldier? What is that?
Sontaran! Stare into the face of death!
Sometimes the trailers are very Hollywood action packed.
Yeah, there's a lot of screaming in that one, wasn't there?
Yeah.
A lot of screaming.
Yes. So the Sontaran Stratagem was first broadcast back in 2008, 10 years ago.
Oh, gosh, I'm starting to feel really old.
I know. 10 years ago. It was written by Helen Rayner. It was directed by Douglas McKinnon. Obviously overseen by the Eccleston haters.
Yeah.
RTD, Julie Gardner and Phil Collins. Yeah, they're probably all joking around on set, aren't they? Oh, yeah. I'm glad you're here, David. We wouldn't have had this without Chris. He would have been moaning every 5 minutes. Anyways, it stars, as we know, David Tennant as the 10th Doctor. With it's a double companion story. So we've got Donna Noble, Catherine Tate, who's the Series 4 sort of regular, I was going to say component then, regular, what's the word?
Companion,
there we go. But Martha's back for this one.
Yeah, Martha's back.
Yes, Freema, she's back. And she's got herself promoted.
Yeah.
So she no longer works at disappearing hospitals. She now works for UNIT. I'm not sure what she does at UNIT because she still has some kind of medical badge, but she doesn't do anything medical. She's more of a sort of project manager, scientist thing. Like, you on me. We're running down this corridor. And now we're back. So, yeah. Martha Jones is back. And the story is the majority of the cars on planet Earth has been fitted with this very snazzy sat-nav system called Atmos, which turns out to be a bit more of a sinister, potentially very dangerous car upgrade. As we see a very nosy reporter meet her comeuppance at the beginning as a result of this Atmos thing. And it's been designed, supposedly, and manufactured by this very genius young chap.
Oh, him.
And he's getting help from an otherworldly, unlikely assistant or assistants. So this is all triggered by UNIT being aware of this mass sort of death occurrence across the Earth. 50-odd people die at the same time. It's all very weird, aliens, etc. So they draft in the Doctor. Martha calls him in with Donna, and they soon realise that something's not right at all with this Atmos thing. So they track it down to the designer, which is the genius American annoying kid. And the Doctor figures out that he's got a portal which goes up to the Sontaran ship. He figures out it's Sontarans. The whole time there's clonage going on. So Martha gets cloned, the soldiers get cloned.
Oh, yeah.
And at the very end, the Sontarans think they've done away with the Doctor. And then they launch their grand weapon. So all of the Atmos units in the cars around the world start spewing out the poisonous gas. Old Wilfie's trapped. Donna's trying to get him out. The Doctor doesn't know what to do. Everything's going to beep. And that's the first part.
Yes.
Yeah. So What are your general feelings on this one?
Right. Well, I was actually quite pleasantly surprised by this.
Right.
I was, yeah, because as I said, I watched it when it went out, and then I quickly forgot about it. And I don't think I've watched it since. I may have watched it once when I bought the DVD set. I certainly don't remember. But so yeah, I watched this the other night, and expecting it to be, a bit drab, to be honest. That's how I remember it. Nothing about it, like you said earlier, is stuck in my mind at all. Like, I've never reached to put this two-parter on. So yeah, I put it on and sat there and got sort of drawn in, and I was like, oh, Martha's back. Yeah, I forgot Martha's in this. And oh, there's a funny thing in the basement. That's done quite well. And oh, Donna and Martha are getting on, and that's they're quite good together. And oh, they've got a really good cliffhanger. And I thought, actually, you know what? I quite enjoyed that as a first part. And yeah, I was quite surprised because maybe just because I haven't watched it for so long, I just wasn't expecting a lot from it, to be honest with you. But no, I thought it was decent. Not amazing, but not drab like I remembered it. It was actually quite a good little watch. It did have tones of like the classic series as well. I don't know. There were bits about it where I thought, actually, this is really seeing really good stuff going on here. And I quite like the Sontarans in it, which I don't remember liking at the time. I think I remember thinking they were sort of made too comedy when I've watched this back in, what was it, 2008?
Yeah.
Whereas I quite liked them this time, although they're not in it that much. So yeah, my overall thing on a rewatch is pleasantly surprised. Yeah. Not amazing, but certainly an enjoyable little 45 minutes. And I do think the cliffhanger's great. I definitely wanted to go on to part 2, which I didn't do because we're going to review it separately. But yeah, it definitely made me want to watch the rest. I wasn't sort of sat there thinking, oh God, I've got to do part 2 next week. I was actually like, I'm quite looking forward to watching the second one. I hope this is good. So that's my thoughts, mate. What do you think of it? You sound like you've watched it more than me.
Yeah, I've done a few Tennant marathons over the years. So I think this may be like the 3rd or 4th time I've watched it.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, my opinion hasn't changed on it too much since the last couple of times I watched it. I generally think it's okay. It's a pretty good story. And I'm really glad that you said that it reminds you of Classic Who in a way, because it does have a kind of, I don't know, it has a classic feel to it. I don't know why. It does have a, anyway, it's, and I don't feel like it is, sometimes when we do 2-parters, it's quite difficult to not reference the next part.
Yeah, I know what you mean, yeah.
Yeah, so how do I say this without revealing the punchline, so to speak? My feelings towards the Sontarans change from this one to the next conclusion.
No. You see, I haven't watched the second part, and the good thing is I can't remember a blimmin' thing about it. I think it's going to be like watching a new episode. I can't remember part 2 at all.
Yeah.
So I'm oh no, I'm hoping it's going to be like this, where I'm going to watch it and think, oh, that's much better than I thought. But now I'm thinking it might not. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. On a plus note, my feelings towards them were, because in my memory I thought, have they sort of devalued the menace of the Sontarans? But thankfully they didn't too much in this. They were quite sort of, the thing with the Sontarans, as everybody knows who's seen any of their stories, especially in the classic years, is that they're very well they do well at planning the war. So their build up and their planning and their war scheme, if you like, is always very good, and they carry that through into modern Doctor Who, which is great, because it would be a bit silly for them to just turn up like Cybermen do or Daleks and just start shooting up the place. It wouldn't feel right, because Sontarans are very, they've done their homework. It's a slow build, and I'm glad that they've done that with modern Doctor Who, which is good.
I'm still not sure. I cannot decide whether I like the sort of redesign of they've kept the sort of potato head look, which is fine.
Yeah.
I just cannot decide if I like the blue rubbery suits or not, because it does look okay, But part of me doesn't like it. I'm really torn. Do you like the redesign, or do you like? I mean, they look better than they did in the Two Doctors, where they're about 10 feet tall, in those silly.
Right.
But I don't know. To me, still the best Sontaran for me is still the John Pertwee episode. The Time is it Time Warrior?
The Time Warrior.
Yeah, that he just it looks fantastic in that. But they sort of seem to get worse over the years. And then this design, it looks very rubbery, I think, the suit. I just don't know. Part of me likes it, part of me doesn't. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a tale of two parts, really, because the head part of it, you can tell that they've gone for sort of ultra realism. So they want it to look like skin and muscles, sort of all morphed into this big dome shape.
Yeah.
So in terms of makeup and prosthetics and stuff, it does look great.
That does look good. Yeah,
they've gone for the realism. Because in some of the older classic episodes, you can see that it's just it's almost looks like a brown shopping bag. And they just
the Two
cut
Doctors
a mouth.
ones do. They look terrible.
Yeah.
They really do. Yeah.
They just cut a.
Even the Sontaran experiment one doesn't look that great. I mean, it just compared to the original one, it just looks amazing. I mean, that actually looks like a potato. That the skin is dirty and bits of hair growing out of it. It's brilliant. The first Sontaran.
It does look like a potato. Yeah.
Yeah. Whose name escapes me. I know listeners will be shouting at me. I just can't think of his name. Is it Storr or is that? No, this is Storr, isn't it? Anyway, the first Sontaran, the John Pertwee one, fantastic.
So I do like the makeup for this one, and there's a scene where Stahl turns up at the manor house where Luke through the portal, and the Doctor says, reveal yourself, and he takes his helmet off, and there's a really close up shot of his face, and you can see like his sort of hairs poking out where his eyebrows supposedly.
I like the fact they did that. Yeah,
but the fact that they could get that close up on Christopher Ryan's face shows how good the makeup is, because it's a real proper close up. I mean, all you can see on the screen is just brown skin, Sontaran skin, and then his eyes really close to the camera and stuff. So they wouldn't have been able to have done that if the makeup was a bit ropey.
No.
So fair play to that. But the other half of it is the blue kind of spacesuity thing.
Yeah.
That's probably where it does feel a little bit. It's not as bad as the Cyberman, Iron Man style, in my opinion.
No, it's not as bad as that.
But it does still,
I wonder if I'd like it better if it was black, but then that might look a bit too Jadoon-like.
Jadoon, yeah, true.
Yeah, see what I mean? But I don't know, maybe if they just toned it down a little, because it's quite a bright blue, isn't it? But yeah, it's not a biggie. As I said, I kind of like it, but I kind of don't. I'm just a bit torn on it. Please tell me they throw that annoying kid in the machine at the end. Please tell me he gets it.
I can't reveal.
I can't remember what happens to him. Please tell me something. I bet nothing happens to him.
I can't reveal. I can neither confirm or deny, because that would be leaking into the second part. But yeah, so I mean, yeah, we sort of the Sontarans. I can. Do you know what the problem is for me with Sontarans? Take a seat. Get a brew.
Get the kettle on.
Is that sometimes a certain character sticks in your head and it makes you feel differently about everything else after it's like you can't unwatch something, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So although he's really funny and good in a way, the character Strax has kind of had an effect on me where it concerns Sontarans, because when I'm watching episodes like this where it's somebody else playing because Dan Starkey is in this, isn't he? He plays Score.
Yes, that's right.
The other one. But when Christopher Ryan is in it playing General Stahl, I'm just waiting for him to come out with some comedic line that Strax does with the 11th Doctor, or with Madame Vastra and all. The whole Paternoster gang thing.
Yeah.
And I'm just waiting for it now, because I can't unwatch what I've seen and also listening to the Big Finish audio, the Haunted House story with
Jaeger and Lightfoot.
Yeah. He's just so funny, and Dan Stark is brilliant at playing Strax. He's so good and so funny. It's now sort of had this subconscious effect on me. So when I'm watching Sontarans now, I'm just waiting for the one-liners and the comedic side of him. So although I said that their sort of menace and threat hasn't been washed down or diluted down as much as I thought they or remembered they did, I do still have this thing like, when you got characters like Strax running around, they're not that bad. If that makes any sense.
It does make perfect sense, actually. I think I feel very similar to that, because I thought that Dan Starkey would be playing Strax in this. I kind of, in my memory, thought Strax was in it, but then sort of turned a bit good towards the end. I can't remember what Strax's storyline is. So yeah, Dan Starkey's in it, but he's playing Score in this one, so he's playing a different character.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right, because Christopher Ryan plays it slightly comedic as style, but he still has a good amount of, he's got a bit of fire in his belly, so he's still a little bit threatening, but he does sort of have this humorous element to him, but not to the degree of Strax. But you're absolutely right, because even when he's talking, I'll keep expecting like a little quip to come out, or I expect, Score to say something funny because it's Dan Starkey. And that is a shame, actually, because that they have become very comedic, the Sontarans. If you look at them back in, in the what's the one before Genesis of the Daleks, Sontaran Experiment, and and the Time Warrior and stuff, the sort of comedic bit comes out of the fact that they take themselves so seriously, doesn't it? The fact that we are a race of war and all this sort of thing, and they're quite proud of things, and and that sort of stuff. Whereas in the sort of later series, they sort of start to ham themselves up a bit, don't they? And so I totally get what you mean. There were a couple of little lines. I didn't find the comedy too much in this, but there were a couple of bits where I half expected one of them to come out with a serving tray or something stupid, So yeah, I totally get what you mean.
Yeah, and it's frustrating. No, that's the wrong word. It's not frustrating. Yeah. Like I said earlier, I just can't unlisten now or unwatch the Strax stuff. So, A Good Man Goes to War, that series 6 episode was actually, I really like Strax in that. And I do think he's a real funny character, and he bounces off of Matt Smith's Doctor really well.
Yeah.
But it's like I said, now when I watch them in this, it does make me think like, I can't take you 100% seriously in your sort of threatening nature, because, I don't know. It's hard to explain. I'm sure a lot of listeners will get what we're saying, but.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So Sontarans, as a Sontaran story, there was a fairly decent build-up, I suppose. They didn't just reveal them, off the bat. We had to wait until halfway through. We could actually see, and it was a pretty good reveal when he takes his helmet off, and we see the close-up and so on. It's pretty good, and and the kind of, I do wish they would have made them feel like there was more of them as well. So there's a couple of scenes where it's all CG, I think, where there's like these little Sontaran little round things flying around and their little battleships and so on.
Yeah.
It would have been nice to have seen a bigger fleet and a lot more going on, because we've seen that with Dalek stories, in some of the stories where it's like a Dalek invasion, you see like hundreds of Dalek ships and it all looks pretty good. It would have been nice to have seen a bit more of that, because of, the sort of bred for war huge Sontaran fleets that we're supposedly meant to buy into.
Yeah, and I must admit, I liked the designs of the ships. Like, I get what you mean. We could have had a bit more of that, but like when we see them big Sontaran spaceship just hovering over the Earth, I quite like that sort of threat just out there and everyone unaware of it. And then you see all the little sort of Sontaran golf ball spaceships that hark back to the classics, which I absolutely love. I love those spaceships. So that's quite nice to see them in it, slightly updated, because they're like flying around and stuff, aren't they? But you can still clearly see it's that silver ball design that we had in the classics. So that's quite nice. I quite like that. But yeah, I like the sort of having the threat just hovering over an unsuspecting Earth. I thought that was quite nice.
Yes. And what did you think to this story requiring, so the Sontarans requiring an ally on Earth? Because that seems to go, because they're obviously using this guy, this young lad, Luke, so when I first watched it, I thought, this doesn't sound like Sontarans. They don't need people on Earth to do their little bits of work. They can just do all that stuff. But it's actually quite an interesting little twist, I find. I think it does help the story a little bit that they have this ally on Earth, if you like, who's doing all of the Atmos stuff and is in communication, in cahoots and so on.
Yeah.
What do you think to that part of it? Even though the guy playing Luke, Ryan Sampson, is annoying as hell. What did you think to that part?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it's kind of cool. I do like this idea of having Atmos in everybody's cars. I really like that concept because it's something you can imagine happening. Like we take technology for granted all the time.
Yes,
but you know, I mean, you have devices in your house that listen to your entire conversations. We all know that, and yet we do absolutely nothing about it. We just think, oh, it's all right. You know, it doesn't matter. And yet this shows us that actually, you know what, one day it might matter. The all this stuff around you. And so I really like the Atmos, concept. And I think he's quite a good part of that, I suppose. He is annoying. I get the feeling he's going to get even more annoying in part 2. I could tell because he's not in it that much as either character. What's he called? Ryan
Luke
Sampson. Oh, is it Luke? Oh, is Ryan the actor's name?
Yeah.
Yeah. To be fair, he's playing it annoying. I don't think it's that he's a bad actor. I think he's doing, what's on the page. So
of course, yeah.
It's not, it's no bad thing against Ryan, but yeah, he is a bit sort of up himself, and I suppose that's because you can't wait for him to get his comeuppance, which is why I'm hoping in part 2 that he does. So yeah, no, I thought he was okay. A good part of the story. Obviously, there's a good sort of standoff between him and the Doctor, which is a nice scene, isn't it? Because he thinks he's the big know-it-all, and then somebody, the Doctor comes in and knows like 10 times more than him, and he doesn't like it. So that's quite nice. Puts his nose right out of joint. So scenes like that, it's good to have a character, I think, which thinks he's the big I am and gets put right in his place by the Doctor in about 2 seconds. So that's quite good.
Yeah, that was a great scene, actually.
Yeah, I like that scene. I was kind of waiting for something like that because I felt that David Tennant was a little bit holding back a bit for some of this story. He's still great in it, but I kept thinking he seems to be drifting a little bit, letting the others, take the limelight a bit, which is all well and good because it's a 2-parter, so maybe that's the intention. But I was waiting for him to sort of take the, to come to the fore and sort of give us some good 10th Doctor banter, which he does in that scene. I was thinking, here we go, here he goes. And then he does the thing with, is it a tennis ball or an orange or something that he throws and goes in the back of Styles' vent.
Yeah, tennis ball, I think. Yeah.
Tennis ball, yeah. So it does come. But yeah, I did think, the Tennant takes a bit of a back seat for the first half of the story, I thought, a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's good because it gives, Donna and Martha time to take over and stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say, because there's another companion who's back. And Unit are back as well. There's a lot going on. Which I'm not sold on Unit in this story.
No, nor am I. It doesn't feel like Unit to me.
It doesn't, does it?
No, I don't know why. Yeah. If it's the silly red berries or I don't know what it is, but they don't feel like Unit. Maybe it's because Kate Stewart isn't there.
Maybe, yeah.
I did think the same. I thought it doesn't feel like Unit, the guards and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just their overall approach and their attitude.
They're very cocky, aren't they?
Yeah,
the Unit soldiers are very sure of themselves and
that's
stuff.
It. Yeah, and even the not the commander, what's his name, Colonel Mace, Rupert Holiday Evans.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Even he, he's very, because normally when the Doctor is around with Unit, he does have a certain sort of aura around him where they sort of know who he is. And know what he's capable of for the most part anyway. And I think maybe they were going down because I think in a lot of the Unit stories, it's fine to have somebody that can push back against the Doctor because the Brig did that a lot. There were times where the Brig was constantly at the end of his tether with the Doctor and, not happy with him. And then what was the story where what was the special? I think it was Planet of the Dead with Michelle Ryan.
Ooh.
You know, with UNIT in that story, and whoever was the head of UNIT then, this woman, I can't remember her name. You know, she was quite strong and pushy with the Doctor, and that's one thing. But I found that Colonel Mace in this one, I don't know, he just seemed like very put out and, you know, was like a petulant child at some point. You know, where the Doctor's, you know,
got the whole no salute thing going on.
Yeah, and then when they walk a bit later on in the episode, about 15, 20 minutes in, him and the Doctor are walking out of this warehouse where they are. Oh, that's it. Yeah, the Doctor said, you know, I want a Jeep. I need to go and find this, you know, this kid who's invented the thing. And the Colonel Mace is like, oh, so you do have a spaceship then? So you're obviously concealing weapons, you know? And then the Doctor's like, no, it's just, and then he's like, I told you no salutes. And he's like, now you're giving orders. You know, he's like a little child that's been not getting his own way sort of thing. And I don't think it kind of fits with what the normal leader of UNIT should be like. You know, they should be a bit of a pushback there and, you know, a bit of banter with the Doctor and so on. But I don't know, it just feels like, and those cocky soldiers as well, you know, when they go down and they find the cloning tank. Yeah. And then, is it Stahl or Score comes through the door and they start just mocking him, saying he's a child and Humpty Dumpty and all that stuff. Just their attitude and stuff, it just doesn't feel like UNIT. No, I did think the same thing, actually. Yeah. They just feel a bit, I almost felt like, couldn't tell if they were good or bad guys. I kept thinking, are they bad guys that have infiltrated UNIT or what? Because they don't, like you said, they don't feel like UNIT. They almost feel like they're going to turn their guns on you at any minute. I don't know, something that wasn't right there. I have to say, I love some of the tones in this are quite dark, because it's one of those stories that jumps between sort of light-hearted stuff to quite dark stuff. So like the woman getting killed at the beginning, going into the water, I thought, well, that's quite dark for the beginning of a story, like some poor old reporter getting drowned, and it's done pretty well, isn't it? The way the car just drives off the bridge and stuff. I thought, okay, because I think that's what drew me in. I sort of put it on thinking, right, okay, let's watch this then, let's get this on. And then sort of that first few minutes of her getting trapped in the car and in the water, I was like, oh, okay, that's quite dark for 7 o'clock television. And then there's a couple of other bits later, like the thing that's in the basement, the water creature clone thingy. Oh, yeah. Looks really good. Looks really good, and it's quite horrid, isn't it? It's like it's a good. Maybe that's why it feels like more like sort of classic Who, because there's a good scene where you sort of know it's going to jump up, and I can't remember quite what's happening in it, but hopefully you know the bit I mean. But there's a good scary scene around that thing in the basement where you know something bad's going to happen, and you're sort of waiting for it to jump. Oh right, yeah. And I think it does. I can't quite remember that, but I thought, yeah, this is quite good, dark Doctor Who stuff, you know, and then you sort of get the more lighter stuff, that worked quite well, I thought. Yeah, sort of dark and light stuff together. It does, and it doesn't detract too much from my enjoyment of watching it either. This whole UNIT thing, you know, it's a small sort of annoyance. Well, I am really looking forward to seeing how this concludes, because I'm going along with it quite well at the minute. Yeah, I really hope the conclusion is a fitting conclusion. I actually am very much looking forward to watching it. Yeah. But I've got worries. Worries. You know. That things like these little niggles that we're mentioning are going to sort of escalate in part 2. I don't know. We'll see. What about our companions then in this story? Because like we said, it is a double companion, because it's at the moment throughout David Tennant's era, he doesn't really favour the big TARDIS team. It's only the odd story where we have a lot of people. I think the most he's travelled. What was the Stolen Earth? I think had everybody pretty much, even another one of himself. Oh, I hate that. Anyway, that's for another time. Yeah, but I think generally, the most he's had really is what Mickey and Rose and Captain Jack. Oh yeah. Potentially. Normally it's just sort of him and Martha, him and Rose, or him and Donna. So it's interesting when you see another companion, because he's really nervous at the beginning, isn't he? When he's like, Martha Jones, Donna Noble, and he just sort of takes a step back and he's like, please don't fight. You know, he's not in the mood for Yeah. So what did you think to this being sort of having Martha back and having another companion?
Yeah, I like it. It's funny because when that scene happens, I was thinking, oh no, here we go. We're going to get the bickering that we had sort of in School Reunion, boring. But they don't. They do it for like 2 seconds and then start laughing, and they get on really well. And I thought, oh, that's good. So that's better, because, you know, it would be so easy to write it that they don't get on and they bicker, and it's, oh, I'm the Doctor's companion. No, I used to be. So I'm glad they didn't go down that route. I'm glad that, you know, Donna and Martha sort of click and start working together immediately. It's a nice, refreshing change, and it's good to see what Martha's doing now, because I'm sure regular listeners to the show will know that I like Martha as a companion. So I really like the fact that she's back and we get to see what she's doing, and I think it suits the character. I can totally imagine her doing this sort of thing. It's funny because she was, you know, I think we talked about it recently. She was supposed to go into Torchwood at some point. I think that was the plan, but Freema decided she didn't want to do that series. But, you know, again, I can absolutely imagine Martha Jones doing that. So I think she works really well in it, personally. I think where we were sort of saying that Unit sort of falls a bit flat, I think Martha sort of brings it back. She's actually very good in it. And Donna's good in it. I absolutely love Wilf, as everybody knows. So just seeing her going home back to see her mum, who she's annoying but in a good way. I like the character because I think she's quite realistic as a mum, the way she just starts moaning at Donna, and again, very relatable, Donna's family. So when Donna goes back home, I thought that's a lovely scene. I'm confused because, you know, with the timeline, is this Wilf's first story? Because when he sees the Doctor, he says, oh, you were the guy who dropped down to Earth. And I'm thinking, so that was from the character, that was from that little scene in The Voyage of the Damned, isn't it? Where he drops down and Wilf's in the hut, but obviously wasn't Wilf then, but is now. I was a little bit confused because I assumed that Wilf had been in the series before, but clearly he was just in that little cameo, I'm assuming. And then this must be the first sort of proper story with him, maybe. I don't know. I've sort of lost track of, you know, the sort of timeline, but that's what it appeared to me, because when he sees the Doctor, he's like, it's you, as if they haven't, you know, got to know each other yet. So I just love Wilf. I think he's so believable. Bernard Cribbins is so fantastic as Wilf. So I loved it when Donna went home to see them and sort of, you know, and again, it brings that realism home, doesn't it? That she's gone off and having all the fun, and she suddenly realizes, actually, I never told my mum, you know, I told them where I was going. And Martha says it to her, doesn't she? She's like, did you tell them? So that's nice. That's right, really nice. And that's one of the sort of advantages of having this as a two-parter, as we get time to sort of, you know, have those scenes, if you like. So I really liked that.
Yeah, because it's almost like it is relatable. Absolutely.
100%.
Yeah, so it's Donna's normally, when she was stuck at home, you know, she was fed up with being nagged all the time. But when Martha reminds her, because Martha says, you know, being with a Doctor, it's brilliant, but it's dangerous, in a nutshell. Yeah. And then that clicks in her mind. She's like, actually, yeah, like you said, I didn't get to say goodbye or tell him how I felt. So when she goes back and her mum starts nagging, she's just got a little smile on her face, like everything's fine. You know, everything's good. But in terms of Wilf's timeline, no, he was in that story, wasn't he, with what's her face from Corrie?
What the
Partners in Crime.
Partners in Crime. But maybe he doesn't get to meet the Doctor. I really can't remember. Yeah,
because it's just the scene when he's at the allotment with Donna.
It. He looks up at the stars.
That's it, yeah.
And I always think, if you want to, you know, if people ever sort of criticise Catherine Tate as a choice of companion, saying, oh, she's comedic, she's not an actor, you only need to watch scenes like this.
Yes.
And just see how natural she is in her performance. And her and Bernard Cribbins, and I'm not sure the lady's name who plays her mum, you know, they absolutely spin off each other brilliantly. You know, they are absolutely believable as a tight-knit family, and I love that. Absolutely love it, you know.
Jacqueline King.
Oh,
Sylve.
Old
Sylvie Noble. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know she's annoying, but she's meant to be, isn't she? She's like the nagging mum of, oh, what are you doing now? And then, putting her down and, it's stuff like that. And Will sort of stuck in the middle of it, looking at Donna, I'm on your side. It's great stuff.
It is.
It really is.
Very good stuff. And what did you think? So Donna's really good. Catherine Tate, she's really good in this.
Yeah.
As she always is, pretty much.
She is, yeah.
Martha's pretty cool.
What do you think of evil Martha?
Yeah, I was going to say. So we have evil clone Martha, who's I think she's meant to play that quite understated. I don't think she's meant to have this sort of evil cackle, rubbing her hands together like, the evil plan is coming together.
Yeah.
But she does have she is a little bit sinister though. I quite like how she plays it.
I thought she played it really well. Yeah, I was going to say, it's nice to, bring her back and then to give her something different to do as well. No, I thought she played evil Martha quite well. I thought she was quite sinister. And I just like when she takes the call from the doctor and then the guy's like, anything to report? No, nothing. And you're like, whoa.
Yeah, that's cool.
Harsh. Yeah. No, I thought she was good. I can't remember what happens with the whole clone thing. Is good Martha in the tank or is evil Martha just
no. So good Martha is still wired up in the chair, metal chair.
Oh, she's in the metal chair. Of course she is. Yeah.
Because I think her memories and her thoughts are being transmitted to the clone so that the clone can use that to be an effective infiltrator.
That's right. I remember now. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's it. That reminds me of the Cyberwoman chair. I don't know if it's the same thing. I thought that straight away when I saw it. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So evil clone Martha, she's pretty good.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah.
And I prefer the evil clone unit guards as well because they're quiet. There's no cocky playground nonsense from them.
Yeah.
Yoth. Okay. What about? Yeah. So and just Colonel Mace then. So who's heading up unit at this time. I think nothing else to say on him really. I mean, he's okay. He's
a bit of a wet lettuce, isn't he?
Yeah, he's pretty good. But yeah, he just seems like a spoilt child sometimes. And personally, for me, that's not how I would have. I shouldn't say things like this. It's not how I would have written him as a character. But my writing skills are minuscule compared to someone like Helen Rayner. But yeah, I just felt like he was, not quite on point for the head of unit.
I get you. He's definitely not as strong as character as say, Kate Stewart or someone like that. He does not stick in the mind.
No.
As much as maybe he should. Yeah. But he wasn't bad. But I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about Tennant then? Oh, Dave.
Yeah, Dave. Reliable as ever. As I said, I did think he was holding back a little in the first half of the episode, but maybe understandably because he's, as I said, it gives Donna and Martha time to shine and do their thing. So that's all good. Nice scene with the spoiled brat.
Yeah.
Where Tennant sort of comes into his own again. It's a great cliffhanger, isn't it? I think when Will's trapped in the car.
Yes.
And the doctor looks, again, Tennant showing his acting range, just absolutely terrified and helpless, and I don't know what to do. And he's on point, I would say, in this one. Yeah.
Yeah. I will say that there is a slight flaw in the whole being trapped in the car, because obviously the Atmos system takes over the electrics and the functions of the car, so it can lock the doors and everything, but I'm pretty sure that it doesn't replace any of the windows with like non-breakable.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, I did think that. I did think, well, clearly next week they're going to smash the glass. I mean, yeah, that is true.
It's like if someone's trapped in the car and there's gas spewing out inside, and someone's clearly dying inside the car, and you've tried everything, surely within a matter of seconds or a minute at the most, the next thing you're going to do is pick up a heavy object and break the glass.
Yeah, I'm assuming that's what happens. Yeah.
Well, yeah, maybe it does.
But also, you're saying about the locking of the car doors. They very conveniently don't lock when the doctor gets trapped in the car in the Jeep, which is a little bit again because they just get out of it and it goes in the water. When he tells the thing to do exactly the opposite of what it's supposed to.
Yes.
And then they jump out just where it goes in the water. I was thinking, hang on, I thought the doors were meant to lock. So that's a bit convenient, isn't it? As well,
a little bit.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But yes, it's I can imagine that's how the cliffhanger is going to go. But I thought it was a good build-up. It still left me wanting to put on the next one. Yeah,
it was a decent cliffhanger, actually.
I think it's because it's Wilf as well, and I love Wilf so much. The thought of him trapped in a car is like, no.
Yeah. And his reaction to the Doctor is really cool as well, because
it's lovely.
Yeah, because them two they do get on very well over Donna's era. That's the way to say it. The noble companion era.
Yeah.
Especially the scene that we see later on, like with him and Wilf in the cafe, and the closing moments of the end of time. They do get on very well. They're a very good relationship. And it all kicks off from this point, really. So when Wilf's like, oh, it's you. At first, I thought, is Wilf going to do his nut? Is he going to have a go at him for taking Donna off and potentially, putting her in a dangerous situation? But it's all a bit sort of lighthearted, really.
Yeah.
He's like, well, she takes care of me. He's like, yeah, it's my Donna. And then that's it. From that moment on, they're sort of good friends, really. And
I think he's one of my favourite characters in Doctor Who. I adore Wilf. Bernard Cribbins is so good. Yeah. Such a good actor. Yeah.
But overall, I thought David Tennant was, I think, like I said, I don't want to give too much away, but I feel like in part 2, he sort of ratchets it up a little bit.
I'm waiting for it. I kept thinking that. Yeah. When I said he was holding back a bit, I kept thinking, when's he going to take over and bring it all good? And I suppose naturally that comes in part 2, but I am waiting for that moment.
He's still solid though in this one. He's still good. And that scene that we mentioned with him and Luke, it's a really cool sort of dual purpose, that speech, because he's doing it in a way to make him feel he's bringing him down to earth, like giving him a reality check, isn't he? It's saying, like, you might be able to put on this spoiled brat thing with everybody else, and nobody else will say no to you, but I'm going to give you a bit of a reality slap across the chops. And then the other thing is that you can see a bit of him, you can see a little bit of the Doctor in him, because he has these little moments where everything else stops and you just hang on his words, where he's like, it's not easy being clever, is it? Everyone else is slow. You can kind of see that that's how the Doctor feels sometimes, being the cleverest person in the room or whatever. So it's a really cool, well-written scene, that.
And it's nice, the nice pairing of, the 10th Doctor and the Sontarans, isn't it? Because, even though the misgivings we have about some of the stuff with the Sontarans, it's they do work really well with Tennant's Doctor. Like the scene between him and Stahl is really good, albeit very brief, but, you can sort of see, I'm assuming again that we get more of that, but you can see that they're going to have a bit of a face-off at some point, those two. Yeah,
that's good. So not much else to say, sort of character-wise. In terms of story, I think, it's a fairly decent Sontaran story. It's not the best we've seen, but it's fairly decent. The episode looks fairly good. Plenty of location shots and...
there were no dodgy special effects that I noticed.
No.
It stood up pretty well in terms of production, I think.
Yeah, I really like the design of the big portal that's inside Luke's office. That looks really cool.
I wouldn't mind getting one of them.
So otherwise, it looks pretty well. Editing was not too bad. It moves along at a reasonable pace.
Murray's music, pretty standard.
Yeah, nothing that jumped out at me. It was fairly standard. Anything else you want to mention before we give it a number?
No, I reckon we've covered it, mate. I think I've done all my notes. Yeah.
Right. I can't even remember whose turn it is to go first.
I think it's you, because I think I struggled last time. Yeah.
Rightio. Okay.
Yeah.
Rightio. I'm going to give this then. I'm going to give this a 6.5.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I thought I'd be giving it. I actually was quite surprised by it, so I'm giving it slightly higher, 7.5.
Okay.
Actually, really enjoyed watching this again. Yeah, so 7.5 for me.
Okay. Yeah, I think, and again, it's very difficult to not jump ahead, but I'm guessing that for the Poison Sky, the score might be a little bit higher.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say lower.
Maybe. We'll have to wait and see, but Yeah. Okay. 7.5 for you.
Yeah.
Right. What did our beautiful listeners think? We did the usual poll over on Twitter, and a whopping 94% of you said likey.
Really? That's good.
Yes, and only 6% said stinky.
I'm surprised because it is one. It's A, one I don't think to watch, and it's B, one I never hear people talk about. So it's surprising, isn't it? So many people liked it.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll get the comments, but yeah.
Yeah, we did have a few comments on Twitter as well. The Whovian Reviews says one of my favourite stories ever from New Who.
Really? Oh.
Yep. C. Parry 90 said super likey.
Super likey.
Yeah. The TARDIS Files HQ said one of my favourites from season 4/series 4. Puts a little winky face, you cheeky. Love the dialogue between Martha and Donna as well. Owen Unit a great 8.5.
Right, okay.
Daniel Fox, my very first Doctor Who episode, and it's a cracker. The TARDIS trio are fantastic in this one, and the Sontarans are at their best. 9.10 Sontar.
Okay.
Roxanne J10 says, love it, with exclamation marks and heart emojis.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah, some real love on Twitter. Let's go over to Facebook. And Kevin Mullen says, although it's not a great script, it's enjoyable enough, and at last this series finally gives us a version of the 10th Doctor that I enjoy.
Really?
His pairing with the quite wonderful Donna Noble redeemed after his first 2 series. There is plenty to enjoy with this episode, although it isn't quite a classic. I'm going to give it 6.46565644631222 out of 10.
Right, very precise.
That's very precise, isn't it? Chris Parry says, one of my favourite 2-parters from the Tennant era.
Blimey.
A great intro to the Sontarans and Unit with a good balance between alien threat and humour. Also nice to see Martha get to do more than not be pining after the Doctor.
Yeah.
They just don't make Sontaran stories like this anymore. 7 out of 10. Miles Mackenzie, call me crazy, but this is one of my favourite stories from Series 4.
Crazy.
Sontarans were brought back in such a great way, and it's a shame they've not had a threat like this since the Sarah Jane adventures. David, Catherine and Freema had good chemistry and very welcome return of units. I don't know how many times I've rewatched this one. 9 out of 10.
Blimey.
Sammy from Down Under says, Sontar.
Sontar, Sammy.
Sontar. Mate. Donna, Martha and Unit, an army of Sontarans. What is not to love? I can't remember which part it is, but I love it when the Doctor puts the gas mask on and Colonel Mace asks him if he thinks. The Doctor replies, are you my mummy?
Must be next week.
Must be next week, Sammy. I also like the bit where Donna finds the sick leave file with no sick days in it. That's a good bit, actually.
That is a good bit, yes.
Martha doing her thing. Sammy gives it 10 super temps out of 10.
10? Tennant out of Tennant.
Wow. Jeff Waddle says there's a good idea for a story in here somewhere, but goodness knows where it went.
Oh dear.
The tennis ball to the probic vent and the dispersing of gas, it would just spread it further, surely, is all too Scooby-Doo for me. I don't even like the portrayal of the Sontarans as bumbling fools. The double storyline goes nowhere, and the spoilt millionaire kid is too obnoxious. Good scenes, but it's just a mess. 3 out of 10.
Oh dear, Jeff.
Not liking it. Lewis Palmer says it's enjoyable enough, but it's also one of those stories that's almost a nothing story for me. There's nothing I can rave about, and there's nothing I can hate. It's very middle of the road. Do like the unit aspects, and it's very Sontaran-y as well. Wilf is always nice to see. 6 out of 10. Aaron Ball says a great episode. Sontarans are great in this and the episode, and they are threatening, and I love unit as this is as just like Pertwee's run, but with 10, and he is fighting monsters on Earth. 10 is great, and Donna and Martha are awesome. Plus Martha has a lot to do. Plus the cliffhanger is pretty good. 8 out of 10.
Oh, cool.
Do you know what? I think that's what maybe links this and feels like classic Who that we mentioned earlier. You know, Pertwee's era when he was sort of banished to Earth and wasn't allowed to. It was just him and Unit doing their thing.
Yeah, it could be, yeah.
Anyway, Joseph Howarth says, what did I think of the first part of the story? It's okay. Bit of a mixed bag. There are some things I like. some things that I wish were a lot better. This is a really long review, so I'm going to chop it down a bit. He goes on to say that the scenes with Donna and Wilf were very well acted, and this is a reason why their dynamic is fantastic. There's nothing really grabbing me about this one in general. It's average at best, and if the Sontarans do come back in Chibnall's run, please give them a story where they are competent. I'm begging you, Chris. A 6 out of 10.
Okay.
Yeah. Lewis Blackmore says, coming from the best series of the modern era, in my opinion, this half of the two-parter doesn't disappoint. Bringing back classic Bringing back classic villains, the Sontarans, with a fantastic new redesign, as well as the unit themselves. This story is always one I look back with fondness. 8.5.
Okay.
Rob Irwin says, I enjoy more of this one than I dislike. Yes, the tiny Sontarans are ridiculous, given what they used to be, but the plot is fun. It's great to see Martha again, and Unit seems really sinister, which is a nice twist. Falls onto the good side of the fence for me, but not without a few issues. Jason Thayer says, I like this story except for the bratty college kid. 8 out of 10. Charlie Turner, not a standout favourite in Series 4, now that I look back on it, but it was my first ever Sontaran story. I like it, but it's not amazing. 8 out of 10. And lastly, Martin Arnold says, I love this story. I love this story, ha. I love this story, ha. And that scene is one of the reasons why a great reinvention of the Sontarans with a really good supporting cast. The Doc and Unit clashing again, Evil Martha, and of course, the legend that is Wilf.
Yeah.
The arrogant human who can't see past his own ego is a classic trope. This story would have fit right into the Pertwee years. I love this, ha. 9 Sontars out of 10.
Cool.
So plenty of Sontar ha's going on there. Do you know what? A lot of love for this one.
I'm very surprised, a bit like the episode itself. I'm surprised how much I enjoyed it as well. It's, I think it's one that perhaps gets a bit forgotten. Maybe it's because Series 4 is, in my opinion, very strong. Perhaps other episodes kind of, overshadow it maybe. I don't know. But, it's good. I'm glad there was lots of love for this one.
Pleasantly surprised.
Pleasantly surprised.
Indeed.
Yeah.
We didn't have anything to fill on the Geeks Handbag.
No, I didn't put a post up, due to complications with the show. But no, I didn't put one this week. But I thought we got plenty from the podcast. So, yes. No complications.
Right. Next week, now, we're going to change things up a little bit, aren't we? Because we're a week behind. So we were going to do a classic story, but that's going to take us into a bit of a disruption for something cool that we've got planned for April onwards.
Yeah.
So we're going to bring the two-parter to a conclusion next week, aren't we? So next week, dude.
Next week, yeah. So next week we'll conclude this two-parter with the Poison Sky.
Yes.
And then we're into April when everything changes. I've been dying to say that. But that's all I'm going to say. So next week, conclusion to this one with the Poison Sky, and then we're into April.
Yes.
And it's going to exciting stuff coming your way next month. Yeah.
So get your Blu-rays or your DVDs out for the Poison Sky. We'll just run straight into that and conclude the story. And I think we're going to do there for 180.
180.
Thank you for sticking with us for episode 180. It's been great to be back behind the mic with my good old pal, Mr. Geeks.
I'm so looking forward to watching the second part of this as well. I didn't think I'd be saying that. No, I just wasn't bothered about this two-parter at all, but I'm actually really looking forward to it. Yeah,
that's good.
Let's see if I'm as excited next week after I've watched it.
Yeah, I was going to say we'll reconvene next week and see if you're still as enthusiastic.
Yeah.
So 181 next week. The Poison Sky. Look forward to reviews and mini thoughts and all that stuff on that. In the meantime, why don't you truck on over to the website www.bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. All of our episodes on there, right back to episode 1.
Good Lord.
Of March 2014. But they're all on there. You can listen to them. You can also link off to all of the social networks and start following us and liking and all that jazz. Because we do chat a lot of Who in between.
We do.
In between episodes. And there's also all the links on there to go off to the podcast networks. The biggest one, of course, being iTunes. So you can give us a sub on there so you never miss an episode. And if you are an iTunes user or subscriber, if you could spare a minute for a review, that would be amazing. Because that gives us a little nudge and a boost, which is always nice. Thank you so much for the recent reviews on there as well. Lovely words. Really cool.
Awesome.
Thank you. Remember to go and check out Adam's channel, The Geeks Handbag.
Yes, indeed.
Handbag full of geeks.
I've got my smile video coming up soon. I've been working so hard on this video, like putting little music bits on, and I'm really chuffed with it. I just got to sort out the audio level. So yeah, go and have a look at that. Should be out really soon, actually.
Yeah. So head over to YouTube. That's where Adam.
That's where I am.
Spends his time. Loads of cool videos there, and he's also on Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff. Instagram. So go and give him a follow. We will be back next week for episode 181 and the Poison Sky and whatever else is going on in Who at the time. So until then, my name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And remember...